Richie, I don't know if you saw this, but Florida State's head coach, Mike Norvell, was ranked in the top 10 on ESPN's coaching rankings. I'm going to go through the top 10 for you, and then I want to hear your thoughts. If you think he's ranked just right, if you think that he's too high, too low, whatever, but I'll give you the top 10. I think we both agree that Kirby Smart is number one, and it's unquestioned, especially with Nick Saban passing the buck to
R.I.P. Nick.
No, I just killed Nick on the show here. But especially with Nick Saban, I mean, if you wanted to give Nick I probably would have had Kirby ahead anyway, just based on where they are right now. All time, I might have Nick, or I would have Nick higher. But Kirby Smart number one. I don't think there's any debate there.
Nope.
I think there could be a ton of debate about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if you want. I guess I'm okay with number 2, considering where he won. But number 2, Kalen DeBoer. Are you good with that? Like, is he the second best coach in college football right now?
No, and I saw the list, and someone who's way too low that should be ahead of him is Ryan Day, in my opinion. Kalen DeBoer, top 5, maybe. Top 10, sure. Number 2,
you think Ryan Day's number 2?
I'd put him up. I'd put Ryan Day at number 2.
See, the big thing about Ryan Day to me is I don't think he's beaten Michigan yet. Like, he hasn't beaten his rival. And
the way he recruits and they win, Jim Harbaugh's gone. So I would put Harbaugh ahead of Ryan Day, but I'd put Ryan Day number 2. That's just me personally.
I think Kalen DeBoer. Now, what's so tough is there's no criteria here.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You can base it on anything you want.
Totally subjective.
You could base it on all-time greatness. You could base it on recruiting. You can base it on their wins all time. You could base it on their wins the last 3 years. There's no measure, right?
I'm sure Dabo's in here, and I don't know if he's top 10 in the portal NIL era. And I'm sure he's high up on this list. And I'm going to say he's way too high as well if he is on this list, which I'm assuming he is.
So here's why I don't have a massive problem with DeBoer. I think going 13-0 at Washington is ridiculous. Well, and then 14-0, right, to get to the championship. And then they lose to Michigan, who they were, outside of a couple of drops, maybe had a chance in that game. I don't have a huge issue with DeBoer at 2, but I think 2 through 6 can be like any order.
Yeah.
I don't think Ryan Day never won his conference and never won against Michigan. That's tough for me. That's tough for me to put him. Like, if you've never won your conference, have they won it? Harlan, can you look that up and fact check me before somebody jumps in the comments? Never won the Big Ten, never beat Michigan. If you've never won your conference, I can't have you as the number 2 coach in college football if you've never won your conference. He is a good recruiter, Richie, but they've had more talent on their team than Michigan every year because of that recruiting. And they've never beaten them.
True.
He's been the best recruiter in the Big Ten, and they've never won the Big Ten. Now, I do think they win it this year, but if they don't, he's out. So, I don't know.
I'd agree with that.
I think he's top 10, but 2 would be too much. Kalen DeBoer, number 2. I guess I'm fine with that. Kyle Whittingham, number 3. Mm-hmm. Utah's coach. I think he did a good job.
It's hard to tell. Hard to tell.
It's so hard. Playing with a third-string quarterback, guided them to 8, 9 wins last year.
Yeah.
Did okay. All right, so here's 4 and 5. Right? I think Kyle Whittingham's too high there, but again, I don't know who you start to put in these other spots because you just lost Saban, you just lost Harbaugh. I think it would feel better if you could put Harbaugh or Saban at 2, Harbaugh at 3.
Yeah.
Then Kalen DeBoer at 4, then Whittingham at 5. Then this next, or however order you want. But obviously a couple of guys got jumped way up because we had some guys leave. So 4 and 5 are Dabo and Norvell, right? So Norvell 5th, Dabo 4th. They're separated by 1 vote. And basically the way they did it is if you voted a coach first, he got 10 points. If you voted him second, he got 9 points. If you voted, so Dabo and Norvell, almost a dead heat. One person had Dabo higher than Norvell is what it came down to. 1 spot higher. Essentially a dead heat. There's not a closer, vote total on here.
Yep.
And again, what are you basing it on? If you're basing it on recruiting, Dabo. If you're basing it on past success, Dabo. If you're basing it on NIL, today's current landscape, Norvell. Head-to-head would be Dabo, obviously, wins and losses. If you're basing on transfer portal or trajectory, it'd be Norvell. But really close, 4 and 5. Norvell, a top 5 coach in college football? Is that cemented?
Absolutely. And the way I look at it is, say there was a vacancy at Florida State today for the head coaching position. Would I take Norvell or Dabo? For me, it's Norvell. He seems to be a visionary coach, right? He adapts what is available. There is no way in hell Florida State should have gone 13-0 last year based on what he took over in 2020 when he went 3-6 to go from that to 13-0. I don't acknowledge the Orange Bowl. People can give me crap for that. I don't care. But yeah, I think Dabo is slow to adapt to the evolution of the college football game. He has 2 national titles. He's had amazing teams. His mid 2010 teams were amazing. But if you were to tell me today, hey, you can either have Dabo or Norvell, I'm taking Norvell every single
Well,
time.
yeah,
So that to me, I get why he's ahead of Norvell, and I'm fine with that. I'm not saying Norvell should be ahead of him. I'm saying if I had a vote, I would have Norvell ahead of Dabo. And yes, TJ, I think Norvell is a top 5 coach in college football. If he wasn't, Alabama would not have been knocking on his door a few months ago saying, "Hey, come coach us."
yeah, you provided a theoretical situation where if Florida State was open, you would want Norvell over Sweeney. I'll provide you a legitimate situation where Alabama was open and they didn't even
Yeah,
call Dabo Sweeney
who played at
with that
Alabama?
offer.
Yeah,
Right. Who they basically said, like, yeah, 5 years ago, we probably would have hired you. But right now, you've proven that you're stubborn and you are on a downward trajectory and your stock isn't as hot right now. Now, Clemson somehow reels off 3 national championships in the next 5 or 6 years, he's going to be right back up there, right? And
absolutely,
flunks out,
100%.
but I don't see that happening. And so
No,
now, could somebody have given Dabo like number 2 overall in college football because of his past successes, and that's what bumped him up here? Probably is what happened. Somebody probably looked at this list and gave
2
a
national titles is nothing to sniff at, right? That's impressive.
somebody probably gave him a lifetime. Somebody probably looked at these as a lifetime
Yeah.
award or voting or ranking, and that's fine. Dabo is a more accomplished coach than anyone,
Anyone but Kirby.
anyone but
Yeah.
Kirby. And don't they both have 2 titles? No, Kirby has 2,
Kirby
right?
now-
Kirby has 3 now, right? Yeah.
I
Yeah. So he's a less accomplished than Kirby, right? But more accomplished than anyone else on this list. The only other coach on this list that has a national title. So
Yeah.
get right back to the list. But first, I want to give some love to our friends over at Rohan Law. Some of you guys have been following Doug Rohan at Rohan Law over on Twitter. He's been all over the FSU ACC litigation. He's really helped explain it in pretty simple terms. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you're following his social media accounts on any platform, but I'd specifically suggest Twitter. Rohan Law is based in Atlanta, Georgia, and they want to be your best friend on your worst day. If you've been arrested or hurt at work, his team is ready to help protect your rights. Call Rohan Law for your free consultation today.
It's crazy.
Norvell, absolutely top 5. To me, I think you could have Norvell at 3.
Yeah.
I think you could. I think Kirby, if you want to put Kalen 2, because winning at Washington was very tough and very impressive, and his overall record is remarkable. I'm fine with Kalen at 2. Like, that doesn't bother me a ton. I think Norvell at 3 would make a lot of sense. I'm not going to squabble over 3, 4. I think if you look at any job in America comes open right now, Texas comes open, Ohio State comes open, Michigan comes open. Norvell's getting called before Sweeney or Whittingham. Now, does he take that job? I don't know, but I promise you that Georgia comes open again. Norvell is getting called before Sweeney or Whittingham, without a doubt.
100%.
We'll look at 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then see if there's anybody in the others receiving votes that you like. I couldn't find Mario or Napier on this. Dan Lanning at 6, part of the Norvell tree. Quite a few votes less than Norvell, like 12 less votes. So there's a pretty marked difference between your top 5 and then everybody else. Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin at 8, Lance Leopold at Kansas, first Big 12 coach.
I like that one. That's a
First
good
second, I guess.
Leopold's a good coach, man. He's good.
Ryan Day at 10. See, I'm a little more in line with that. Ryan Day at 10. Others receiving votes, Brian Kelly was like 4 votes behind Ryan Day. I think I'd be fine with Brian Kelly. I don't know. Yeah, they haven't won their conference either, and obviously never won a conference at Notre Dame. So
They haven't won their division.
Yeah. So I think that makes sense. Lincoln Riley at USC. I think his name is putting him up there. Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. Luke Fickle at Wisconsin. Drinkowitz at Missouri. Mac Brown at North Carolina. Again, that's probably a lifetime achievement type of thing.
No way.
Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State. Jonathan Smith, Michigan State. Deion Sanders at Colorado.
No.
I mean, you're getting into the guys with one vote, right? Like we're probably like 10th on one list. So anyway, there's a few more there. But yeah, I think it solidifies Mike Norvell is absolutely one of the best coaches in America. You
100%.
mentioned it. Yeah. Going from, what was it, 3 and
6
to
5 and 7, 10 and
4,
3.
right? So they were 3 and 10 at one point, and then they went 5 and 3 to finish that year, then 10 and 3 the next year. So you're talking about 15 and 6, and then 13 and 0 after that. So you're talking about 28 and 6 over 34 games. That's ridiculous. Like, that is absurd.
We got ourselves a coach, guys. Yeah. We have a hell of a coach in Mike Norvell. And he is staying here.
Yeah. The best part of that is that Alabama came knocking and he said, your money's no good here. GTFO. So anyway, shout out Michael Alford. I saw him this weekend. So big shout out to him for, listen, Alford's like doing some things with, the whole ACC, retaining Norvell. We'll talk about the baseball team here in a minute. Softball, retaining Lonnie, obviously pulled away the best coach in the SEC and got him to win a national title here in soccer. Yeah. So, Alfred's doing some things over there. So, but let's move on. Let's transition a little bit.